Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Report with Kira Davis. I'm your host, Kira Davis. You all know me. We're merging these brands. The Orange Report is dedicated to California news and views you can use from across the state and Orange County. We do live shows throughout the week. And then on Fridays, we do a wrap show, which is more Orange County focused. There's plenty of news for everyone to go around, though. And I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for tuning in. You can follow the Orange Report OC everywhere. If you're in California, I encourage you, especially, I mean, you should just follow those because they're my accounts, but I encourage you especially to go follow Orange Report OC wherever you see it, because you're going to get more local news following that account. And especially as the show grows, because our goal is to provide steady local news on top of my typical national and state commentary, which is what I'm most known for. Regardless, though, I have to say that since I have started this show, I have realized that it used to be when I started in this business, some people did local news, some people did local stories. I'm trying to think, like Nick Sorter. You remember him? He runs around with Nick Shirley a lot, but Nick Sorter is really a Minnesota-based reporter. And there's been many other state reporters over the years that have been great. And they used to be different from the national commentators, your Megyn Kelly's or even on a lower scale, people like me. And I think this is kind of on theme today. We're talking about, I want to talk about resetting boundaries. I'm going to talk about the Scott Jennings thing for sure. I wasn't on air yesterday because I had other things going on. So I'll talk about it today. But really, we're in this era where local news is national news. And even if you see some local reports on here that might not necessarily be relevant to you, I promise you what I have learned from doing this show is it is relevant to you in some way, because what you see going on here in Orange County is going on somewhere near you. And you need to know, you need to have the tools to fight it, because you can't depend on Donald Trump to fight all these battles. You can't depend on the federal government to fight all these battles. It's not even their place. My algorithm has been set to data centers that are going up. And this is the next frontier, people. This is the next battle. Data centers, they take a lot of water. They take a lot of energy. I know Trump has tried to mitigate that by letting data centers produce their own energy. But in order to produce their own energy, they need land to put up energy production. And so they're not going, to the middle of the deserts, or they're not doing like China. China's building them in the ocean. They're not doing that. They're coming to our farmlands and they're buying up our farmlands. So there's a lot, and that's all local people that are going to stop that. And it doesn't stop it. It just moves it to the next town. So you have to be vigilant, is what I'm saying. You have to be vigilant about your water rights, your energy, your local taxes, all that local fraud. You have to be vigilant. And hopefully soon I'm going to get my friends Carl and Amy David on this show. They are great people. I tried to have them months ago, but they were so busy. But we had a lithium battery plant that was going to get plopped right in the middle of Orange County here, in some of the most expensive property in California. And Amy and Carl, longtime residents, raised their whole families here. They really decided they weren't going to let that happen. And they started a group to try to oppose it. And it worked. They made so much noise. They were so successful that they took that plant off of. But I ran into Amy and Carl recently, and I was asking them about it. I said, I still want to get you on the show. I'd love to talk about how you did this. And they said, well, we're not done, actually. We ended up making our organization sort of a statewide organization, because yes, the lithium battery plant moved from our backyard, but they're just looking at land in the neighbor's backyard. And so we want to teach those people how to fight it. I thought that's brilliant. You've never heard of Amy and Carl David, especially if you're not in Orange County. You've never heard of them, but they're doing something that could help you where you are. So I guess this is a tangent, but this is really important. Like what's going on locally is important. And I get a lot of stories from people. I got a lot of emails like, Kira, this is going on in my neighborhood. You should really cover this. Every story is important, but I'm just one person, and again, I am lower tier in this industry. Always have been. I work. I'm not complaining. I get steady work. I love my job, and I meet the most fascinating people, and I get to hobnob with the most interesting people. I'm not complaining, but what I'm saying is like I'm only one independent opinion journalist, and I have so many stories coming at me. I can't do them all, and it's not even my responsibility to do them all. But pro tip, I'll say this. If you're looking for exposure for a story, work up the story first and then send it to me, right? Then send it around, because I don't think people understand how much effort it actually takes to work up a story, even to write 700 to 1500 words. For some writers like me, that's an all day affair. I don't just sit down and bang out that stuff in an hour. It takes a long time. Then you got to do your fact checking, your back checking, all of that stuff. So, but if you come to somebody with something prepared, even if it's just a, little essay, it's easier to cover. It's easier to even suss out the information or make up bullet points. It's a lot more effort on the part of opinion journalists like me to put the stories together when we're really not close to the heart of the story, but you are. So put it together. And even if you can't get to somebody like me, just put it out there. Everybody has social media. Everybody has a Facebook page. Make a blog post on a Facebook page. You don't need a blog. You don't need 100,000 followers, but get on the record, put something out there. It's really important. So I'm hoping again to get Amy and Carl David on this show soon enough so they can tell you about what they did to fight this in their community. And hopefully you'll take some of those tools. Oh, speaking of tools, there was a big CNN kerfuffle last week, I guess over the weekend, and on Abby Phillips' show. It's Abby Phillip. I know I'm always inclined to say Abby Phillips just because that's how normal people would say it. I'm mad at her husband for dropping that S. How rude. But it's Abby Phillip. But Abby Phillip, she's my least favorite broadcaster on television, and that's really saying something. But she does, is it Abby Phillip at night or something? I once heard from a producer who wanted to book me for the show, and I was super excited because I'm like, fingers crossed you get to be on with Scott Jennings. And just to behold it in person. Not that I'm like thinking anything crazy is going to happen, but just to be witness to that, that's one of the great parts of my job. I don't get paid the big bucks, but sometimes I get to sit next to people who do, and you kind of get to take it all in person. And so I thought that would be cool. I was super excited. I'm like, yeah, I'll come on that show. And they never got back to me. Typically when that happens, they see something you've said that they don't like or they don't want to have to face on air. And I'm very critical of CNN hosts. So I'm going to assume that that's what happened. But I remember, anyways, I'll say this. I remember in that exchange with the producer, one of their lines, and it's not a crazy thing to say. As a producer, you're trying to pump up your show to get the guests. And the producer said, well, Abby's show is the top rated show on CNN. And it's been growing. Like, it gave me all these numbers. Like, this show is one of the best rated shows. And in my mind, I'm thinking, it's not because of Abby. I love how again, this producer was only doing their job. This isn't a criticism of the producer, but it's not like Abby is like some spitfire that people like, I can't wait to tune in to see what Abby Phillip is doing every night. No, that's all totally a Scott Jennings rating. And I'm sure that's reflected in his paycheck. I know he just re-upped his contract maybe last year sometime. So it's totally reflected in his salary. But I was like, no, this is not an Abby Phillip rating. This is a Scott Jennings rating. And given that he really is the person bringing in the ratings, the way they treat him, the way Abby treats him on that show, I'm only saying this now because I'm clearly never getting invited there. I think she hates Scott. I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's got to be jealousy. I think she's a horrible, horrible host and a terrible panel moderator. That is a skill to moderate a contentious panel. It is a skill, and not everybody in broadcast has the tools to do it. And Abby does not. And yet she keeps having these panels every night. So let's get to the point here. I'm sure you've already seen the video. We'll play it anyway so I can react to it. But Scott Jennings was on with Adam Mockler from something called Midas Touch, which I guess I think I remember Midas Touch because very cleverly they managed to tweak a story that they just pulled out of the latest podcast ratings. Yes, this is them. They pulled it out of the podcast ratings last year saying Midas Touch beats Rogan show. I remember now because I was like, what is Midas Touch? Beats Rogan show in ratings, and it was very cleverly spun. It did, technically, but it beat Rogan show on a week when he wasn't broadcasting, and when I think there was like some other stuff going on, weather, storms, all this other stuff, and then even still his replays got almost as much as whatever Midas Touch was claiming they got. So it was a clever rewording, but it worked because the headline spread for a while and they got a little juice out of it. More power to them. I don't hate it. But that's where Adam Mockler is from, this kid. And I don't know. Well, I'll let you be the judge. Scott went off on him, but I'll break this down afterwards. I broke it down on the Substack as well, if you've seen that article. Let's go ahead and play clip 1. And just fair warning, there's language in here. Go ahead and play clip 1.
I mean, honestly, they have been at war with us for 47
We
years.
all know that Scott Jennings is more than happy to defend a war with a country that starts with the letters IRA that we are currently failing, that is going to put us trillions and trillions of dollars more in debt. I was only a few years old while you were in the administration defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat?
Homie, I debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not going your way.
One political concession. Name one political concession.
Honestly, I'm not going to have this guy's
everybody, hang tight.
Honestly.
Okay. No, everybody calm down. Okay. We're having a debate. You can respond to the points that he's making.
Can you name a political concession that we've got?
We had a flashback to the war the skinheads had in my studio.
I would be mad if I had to defend
we-
wars too. I would be mad if I had to defend
we have a- we have a
Scott, you can respond.
We have
and
a
then
very
we'll move
simple goal: to keep terrorists and
Okay,
a terrorist
stop it.
regime from having a nuclear.
I think it was deserved, and I know a lot of people on the left they're having fun with it, and you know that's fine. They rarely get to have fun with these things. So Scott, let them have their fun, Scott Jennings. But I have so many things to say about this clip. Again, I did write about it on my Substack. If you want to go take a look at that. And actually, before we go any further, let me make sure I have my chat pulled up here. Listen. I know what the left is saying that Scott melted down. Adam didn't have his hand in Scott's face. That Scott's just really sensitive. And then suddenly a lot of them were circulating clips of Scott supposedly getting angry. I didn't, it was all a reach. But I didn't see it as melting down. And I didn't think that Adam's hands were, quote, in his face, like totally in his face. But I'll tell you what I said on my Substack. And it's this. It's time I didn't see Scott Jennings melting down. What I saw was a man establishing some boundaries. What I saw was a man who is tired and frustrated of the constant aggression of the left. We're at critical mass here. Now people are dying. I mean, it is serious. Now people are dying, but it's not for nothing. I've been talking about this on this show for weeks now, months even, how when we let one thing slide, when we let one little out of bounds aggression go, it escalates. And it started during BLM. It started during the Ferguson riots a decade ago or more. And then the Summer of Love, BLM, when people were burning churches and burning businesses and rioting in the streets during a pandemic while you and your kids were locked down and they weren't punished. Furthermore, some of our officials like Kamala Harris herself bailed out these people from jail. So it sent a message into the zeitgeist, into the American psyche, which is, there's no punishment for crime, or which some violence is acceptable when the people it is perpetrated against are unacceptable. And that's where we are right now. You can watch, I watch, when I'm doom scrolling at night, I watch clips of conservative man on the street reporters. I watch pro-life clips, pro-life activists and reporters who are doing man on the street interviews, or people who are doing things in the vein of Charlie Kirk, like getting on college campuses and provoking discussion. And a lot of those clips turn violent. I can't believe how many young and old, like my mother's age, but there's just like a self-control problem on the left that we as a nation have been breeding. But they just feel free when they begin to lose the argument. They don't like the points. This person is telling them something that feels uncomfortable to them. When they run out of talking points, they just lash out. They hit, they pull, and then they kind of laugh like, oh, well, you were saying something I didn't like. When I was growing up, that was absolutely unacceptable to hit somebody just because they said something you didn't like. Now, if someone was getting up in your space and someone was causing you harm or about to cause you harm, yeah, you absolutely did draw a boundary. You did set a boundary. Absolutely. But the idea that, when I get frustrated, I should lash out at you. And I watch videos of old women doing this. Something's wrong with y'all old women, old white ladies, especially the Karen Brigade that are now in their 70s. I watch video of them attacking young men. There's a group of young men I follow on Instagram who like to go fishing in random spots, and they don't go fishing in their own neighborhoods, but they see like a lake, community lake, or they'll go try to fish there. They obey the signs, but they're pretty good at this point of knowing like where public property is and where private property is. And inevitably, when they're near private property, but on a public waterway, there is some old white lady who will come up to them and not only start yelling at them, but she will physically assault them. She'll grab their fishing poles. She'll grab their phones. These are young men and they don't want to hurt old ladies. They're begging these ladies, stop. There is something crazy going on the left. And that is what Scott Jennings was responding to. Also, that's man code. That's man code. Because Adam Mockler, that young kid, he didn't have his hands all in Scott's face. But this is what the left does too. They're a bunch of freaking lawyers. They're a bunch of lawyers. They lawyer everything. Well, it's like Nithya Raman in Los Angeles telling the citizens that it's fine to have a homeless encampment next to a school. What does it matter if it's 500 feet or 5 feet from the school? There's no difference. It's lawyering. Well, can I go here? Well, what about here? Well, what about here? And so the left says, well, he didn't have his hands in his face. He wasn't waving directly in his face because none of those people have been hit. None of those people have been in a fight, have been beaten up good one time. I tell you what, when I'm the queen of California, I will put it in our state constitution that every single person has to get slapped in the face when they're 18. You can't graduate high school unless you get one good solid slap to the face. Like, a lot will change in this country when people start getting knocked the F out for being stupid. And what Scott Jennings exercised was not a meltdown. That was him enforcing man code. As I said in my article, I've never been a man, but I've been married to a man for 27 years. I've lived with a man for 27 years, and I have seen him use man code from time to time. And one of the tenets of man code is that you do not let a man, particularly a younger, stronger man, right? I don't know if Mockler doesn't look stronger than Jennings, to be honest. He looks a little pasty, but still, he's got the strength of youth. You don't let a younger, stronger man cross your personal boundaries. They don't get into your personal space. They don't cross the boundary of your personal safety. Why? Because if it escalates, not necessarily when, but if it escalates, that older man is going to have to make some calculations. Can't run as fast as he used to. Maybe in some cases he can't hit as hard as he used to. So now he needs to make some mental calculations. How far do I need to be from this person if something pops off? How much reach do I have? That is actually the act of a mature man. That's actually a peaceful act, what Scott did. That was a warning. No, stand down, son. You get out of my personal space. Men, we don't act like this because it's only one split second. from you being agitated, waving your hands, to you punching me in my face. And if you think that that's hyperbolic, if that's dramatic, I will remind you that Charlie Kirk is dead. And the president's now on assassination attempt number 5, which is unheard of. Unheard of. It's happening so much, we're casual about it. I didn't even lead the show off with it today. Again, the conservative reporters are getting assaulted in the streets. You can look at that TPUSA reporter, Nick Shirley, even Nick Sorter, I mentioned his name at the top, assaulted in the streets. Fights are breaking out over this stuff. The left does not know how to behave. So frankly, what Scott did, it sounded shocking because he was sitting at a table on CNN. But I did see Geraldo Rivera, who was also on that panel. Geraldo Rivera was talking about it later on Chris Cuomo's show. And Geraldo said, look, to be fair, that kid was being a dick. He was being a dick all night. And you can tell, because let me talk about this clip for a second. All of this up here, y'all, when you're having an intellectual intellectuals don't use all of this all the time. You might make a point. I'm a hand talker, right? You make points. But at some point, this is the crutch of a young man, right? Like having to be, and also Gavin does this too. And I find this feminine. I find this to be feminine culture, what I'm doing with my hands right now. I do it, because I'm a feminine. But I see Gavin Newsom do it a lot. And I was asking my husband one day, we were watching him, and I'm like, I feel like Gavin's hand gestures are very feminine. There's something very feminine about him. And if you saw that picture of him standing sawing wood the other day, it was like someone had taken his torso and put it on a woman's lower body. It was such a strange stance. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But all of this, what Adam is, this is what bitches do. This is what bitches do, and then they get all up in your face and then they dare you to do stuff. So that's what Scott was seeing coming at him. And he's a man. And so he knows better. Well, no, you don't let a young buck get up in your face. And guess what? You know what? If that kid was walking down the street in the hood in Gary, Indiana, where we're from, and he stopped to talk to a man on the street doing all that, he would have got knocked the F out. That's the truth. That's street code. So again, all of the people who are saying that Scott was melting down, those people are the problems because they don't understand boundaries. They think there are no more boundaries. They think that, and we've allowed this to happen. We on the right have allowed this to happen. We've been quiet. We've been going along to get along. We've been thinking, and I'm guilty, just as guilty. We've been thinking, we could just engage in persuasion if we talk calmly to these people. But no, for them, that is the battle, to get you to stop being angry and to stop insisting on being heard. And so as long as you were being quiet and passive and agreeable, they could pretend like they were interested in compromise, and they could pretend like they were interested in having real discussion and debate. But that was all a lie. Because the second that A, we started winning, and B, we started being truthful about things, they resort to violence. And again, people are dying. I don't know. I can't say this enough. I don't think I will say this enough, because this is the drum I'm banging for 2026. This is war. If you want to know why people are dying, it's because it's war, and people die in war. And we didn't declare the war on the right. The left declared it on us, but it does us no good to pretend that it's not happening. And so if we want to keep this civil war cold, then we need to do what Scott Jennings did in that clip. Everyone needs to start reestablishing their boundaries. That means standing up and saying something when you know this is not how you're supposed to act. Furthermore, Mr. Mockler is a child. And there, again, this goes back to how we're raising our kids and what we've allowed to happen in society. He's a child. You don't just talk to a grown man any old kind of way when you're a young man. You don't. Even if you're on a panel show and even if you're passionate, there is some measure of respect you are required in the society to exhibit. I don't have this book, do I? I don't have it on my bookshelf. Great book by George Washington. George Washington, yes, the president, wrote a book called Rules for Civilized Behavior. And he wrote it when he was 14, and it's an etiquette book. It's an etiquette book. I used to post quotes from it all the time. Maybe I'll start doing that. And it's really good. Like you can get value from it to this day. But one of the things he talks about in that book is respecting your elders, even if you don't respect the person. You offer them the place by the fire. You don't sit until they sit. You don't leave until they leave. There are all kinds of things that are meant to denote a certain measure of respect for your elders. That's keeps the societal order intact. There's all kinds of social reasons why that's necessary. And again, I can hear the left in my head, the imaginary left that's watching this show in my head, lawyering this already. Well, Kira, some older men aren't respectable. What about abusers? What about, like, that's what they always want to do. They want to pick apart the general argument with their very few exceptions. That's lawyering. I once heard an exorcist talk about the demonic realm, the spiritual realm. And he referred to demons as a bunch of lawyers. That's what he referred to them. He was like, you don't understand. The demonic realm is a bunch of lawyers. God has a contract with us, human beings, and they're always trying to figure out how to break the contract. But there are rules. There's rules to physics. There's rules to time and space. There's rules to God's arrangement. And they have to follow the rules, but they're always lawyering. They're always trying to get around the rules. How could we get around this? That's what the left is, a bunch of friggin' lawyers. And so I can see everybody on the left saying, well, you're not all men are like that, or not all men are respectable. That's not the point. That's not the point. I mean, if you're seeing a man rape and choke out an innocent person in front of you, like, yeah, don't respect that guy. Obviously, this isn't the point. But again, in a civilized society, we don't have to explain these distinctions to people. And we shouldn't explain these distinctions to people, by the way. We should stop explaining. We should just show them, which is what Scott Jennings did. No, son, you don't disrespect your elders like that. You don't talk to him like you guys are peers. You don't talk to him. See, that was the thing. Adam Mockler was arrogant, and I think really that was the problem. He was arrogant. Like, he knows what Scott Jennings knows. He might know a lot, and he might be a smart young man, and maybe someday he will be like Scott Jennings, maybe. But the point is that he was treating Scott like he was some kind of a peer, and then treating him disrespectfully as a peer. And so that is what he was just enforcing man code. No, son, you don't get up in my personal space. You don't act like we're peers, and you don't sit in this mindset of constant aggression. We're having a discussion. You're making a point. I'm making a point. And also, Abby Phillip, you are absolutely the worst. You are the worst. And I cannot figure out how you got a job. And the longer I do this job, the more I realize a lot of those people have jobs because they've traded something for it. I'm not suggesting that I know what Abby traded for it, but a lot of times it is some kind of a trade. And I don't necessarily mean a Kamala type trade. You know what I mean? Some of these anchors pay to have their shows on the air. That's a thing you can do until you can prove that you can get sponsors in. Some of these anchors make other trades on the back end. They have family members in business, doing other kind of business in other kind of places. So, some of them they make agreements with the Democrat Party, and then they get installed. That's the only thing I can think of for Abby, because she certainly didn't get there on the merits of her talent. She's a terrible moderator. She's boring. She's dry. But also she doesn't know how to control her panel. And then you look, and again, she's immature also. So you look at a man like Scott, you sit with Scott every night on this show. You know how he is. You know he is the smartest guy on your panel. You know he knows the most. And you know that he is the most gentlemanly. You know that. And so if you watched him go off in front of you, you know there's a problem there. There's a problem on your panel. And instead of saying to the young man, no, you're not going to treat our guests like that. You're going to calm down, young guy, right? This is not how we don't act all fidgety or you're getting in Scott's face. He doesn't like it. He's asked you to move. He's asked you to calm down. Again, Geraldo Rivera called it. He broke it down. So I'm Team Scott, but here's the other thing I want to say before I move on to the next thing. No, as a matter of fact, let's play clip number 2, because this is Scott from last week. This is Scott from April 27th. So this is days before this meltdown, quote, meltdown with Adam Mockler. This is days before on CNN.
The left is not the only people doing this. And
talking about the violence problem on the left and the right. And of course, he's got a typical liberal foil. Megan, I was on Katie Pavlich's show with her the other night. He's got her on there saying, this is a left-right problem. So this is how Scott very politely and calmly answers her.
Does just as much online.
You can understand why we're on edge as conservatives, though. 3 times the president, Steve Scalise, Brett Kavanaugh, Charlie Kirk. Heck, there was even a plot against Russ Vought the other day, who's the head of the Office of Management and Budget. I mean, conservatives are, I think, rightfully on edge because this keeps happening over and over and over again. And people keep calling Donald Trump a Nazi, and they keep calling him a fascist, and they keep repeating lies about him that are not true, yet they keep getting repeated regarding Epstein and other things. I'm just telling you, as a conservative who lives in this every day, my friend was murdered last year. My president's had 3 assassination attempts. I have a knot in my stomach about it every day that I wake up.
The left is.
Now we're at 5 assassination attempts. So that's Scott Jennings a week before saying, hey, I wake up with a knot in my stomach every day because of the violence that's out there. And Scott Jennings is a pretty high profile guy. And then the following week, he sits down at this panel and Adam Mockler is being grossly disrespectful and agitated. You don't let an agitated young man get close to your personal space. I don't care what you dumb, weak lefties think about how close his hands were into Scott's face. No, that's not how it works. And in the streets, it wouldn't work that way. It absolutely wouldn't. Prove me wrong. Go out there, go pick your local hood. Pick somebody to talk to and start talking to them like that in their face. It doesn't matter what you're saying. You're getting knocked out. It's man code. So Scott was saying, even then, this is escalating. You can understand why conservatives think, yeah, the left has a violence problem. The left just wishes there was a violence problem on the right. And it's only a problem when it becomes a problem for us. What we're saying is, if you see conservatives perpetrating violence, it's probably because they were defending themselves. That's the atmosphere we're in. It's gone on for too long. We need to reestablish boundaries. And that means you say something when you see something. Now, if you're going to put yourself in danger, don't do that. I'm not suggesting that. But, I'm a little more loose-lipped when I'm hanging out with my husband and my son. Than when I'm just on my own, little old lady in her 50s getting mouthy. But that's the other problem, right? There's a lot of those ladies out there. Some of these ladies, I'm like, man, you have never been hit. You have never been clocked because you would not run up on a young guy like that. Anyways, but it does mean we have to reestablish civilized boundaries. And that does mean you're going to have to get mean sometimes. You're going to have to go off sometimes. You're going to have to tell people, no, don't effing do that. Get out of my face. It's not acceptable. We're all going to have to reestablish the boundaries where we stand. You see somebody cutting in line, say something. I'm not saying stop them from cutting in line. That's something different. That can escalate. I mean, again, maybe if you're a big, strong guy, you do. But if you're like me, maybe you just say it. You don't have to keep saying it. You don't have to say it over and over again. You don't have to report someone or go. I'm just saying say it. Because a lot of these people are acting this way and doing just crazy stuff. We're in this low trust society now because we've all been trained to not say anything. We don't want to offend anybody. What if that person's autistic? What if they come from a hard life? What if they, we have to stop. We have to start demanding civilized behavior right where you stand, at the library, in the grocery store, at the doctor's office. You ask for it. And it doesn't mean that you have to keep asking and then you get physical if it doesn't happen, but at least make the observation. Go on record. Some of these people have never even heard that their behavior is out of line. It's important to go on record. Okay, I know I've spent most of this show already just talking about this, but that was a big deal. Let's move on to clip 3. Let's play Karen Bass. Let's move on to some California news. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, is running for re-election, if you can believe that. And Spencer Pratt, I know you've heard all about him. He is burning up the airwaves, burning up social media. That doesn't necessarily translate into votes. And I'll tell you what, LA is going to be rigged. It's going to be rigged. The DSA owns LA. That's why it's so crazy. And Karen Bass has now joined forces with her DSA opponent, Nithya Raman. We call her, well, some people call her Mamdani Light or Baby Mamdani. I call her She Mamdani. They've teamed forces because Spencer Pratt is coming on strong. And you best believe that there will be cheating. It's going to have to be too big to rig for Spencer. And and if you're a praying person, pray for him. But it's going so badly that Karen Bass is resorting to pretending she doesn't know who Spencer Pratt is. Here she is. Now, as she's talking, okay, I want you to try to recall some of those images from the Palisades fires and the Eaton fires last year. Right, the wind event of the century. I want you to recall it. Watching Gavin Newsom standing in front of burning homes, smiling and laughing. I want you to remember those images as she's talking. Go ahead.
Honestly, before this, I had never heard of Spencer Pratt. So
well, you aren't missing out on anything, so it's okay, but please go on.
Exactly. But the thing I am concerned and feel about him is that I feel like he's exploiting the grief of people in the Palisades. And I think that's
right.
reprehensible. That's the main thing. And I think he is about his own celebrity. He's famous now again.
Mm. Yeah. And, I want to talk about this for just a second, though, right? Because these fires were so tragic, and they most certainly are something that is top of mind for you as the mayor of LA.
It wasn't when she was in Ghana.
Pratt's going about trying to, I really haven't heard a proposal for a solution or a remedy on being able to fix these problems for him.
Have we ever heard a proposal from Karen Bass?
Inflammatory rhetoric, frankly. Like, talk about why it's different to actually have
okay, you can stop this. I don't want to hear anymore.
Mayor.
This podcaster is vile. She's just as vile as Karen Bass. That's a prostitute right there. That's a prostitute. She's sold her booty for, I don't even know she's getting paid, but she's getting some kind of kickback from Bass for that. That's a prostitute. Karen Bass, you sick, vile, evil woman. How dare you? How dare you freaking dare you? How very dare you? As if you don't know who Spencer Pratt is, as if you didn't know who Spencer Pratt was. Everybody knows who Spencer Pratt is. If you live in California, especially, give me a break. It's so childish. That's how these people are. But also, I want you to understand why she can say something like that. She doesn't think she is going to be held accountable for anything. She doesn't believe it. And she has good reason to believe that. But Gavin Newsom, Nithya Raman, Rob Bonta, just Katie Porter, Jose Baccaria, name what your favorite California politician, Democrat politician. They all sound the same. They all tell the same lies because they know they can get away with it. They know they're going to win no matter what. They know it's not just that the people are going to go out and vote for them. I don't think that's happening anymore. They know that they own the system. They know the system is corrupt. We live in a banana republic. I talked to Herb Morgan on Dr. Drew's show. He's running for state controller. And he said on that show, I hate to say this, but California is one giant money laundering scheme from top to bottom. Gavin Newsom and the Democrats have this whole state rigged. So we pay tax dollars into programs like hospice care or, LGBTQ support or the railway to nowhere. We pay funds into that. Those funds get washed through some other organization, through some other NGO, and then they get pushed back to the candidate. How do you beat that? And how do you beat it when they're stuffing ballot boxes? That's why Karen Bass can sit there and say that and smile and be like, I don't even know who he is, but I think it's terrible. He's exploiting the Palisades victims. I mean, it's infuriating. It's so infuriating. It's evil. And in case you're watching this back later on in the future and you don't know what happened to Spencer Pratt, he lost his home in the Pacific Palisades and his parents lost their home. His whole family lost everything. His whole family lost everything, all the things. And then he had to live on a trailer for months. And I think now he and his wife have moved their boys to Santa Monica, which now some people are trying to say, well, he can't run for mayor in LA City. But, that's ridiculous because he is a Palisades resident. He's only staying there because Karen Bass won't approve permits. This is what you have to do in the state of California to win this state back. You can't keep voting for these people. You're going to have to get in and roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. And I don't know if Spencer, he can win. I just don't know if he can beat the cheating. I know he can win. I think he is winning, to be honest. I don't believe the polls. I think he is winning. But you have to beat the cheating, and that's another thing. Now, we can do that. There are ways to do that. Too big to rig is one, but then a lot of poll watchers, the Republican Party is going to need to step up in some places, and individuals are going to have to step up, monitor those ballot boxes, see who comes. That's the thing you can do, by the way. You can go post up near a ballot box and just see who comes to pick up the ballots. What's the chain of custody like? What do they do? When they open it, where do the ballots go? I mean, there's supposed to be this huge process, this huge, detailed, safe process. Go in a lockbox and only get transferred. Is there GPS? Does the car look like they have GPS? Is the person taking pictures or doing any other thing to record the ballots that they've taken in, or record their presence there and where they're going? All of that stuff is going to have to be monitored. But shame on Karen Bass. It's disgusting. Exploiting the Palisades victims. He is a Palisades victim, you wench. You total gross whore. I can't think of anything meaner to say. I'm so mad. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. And it's not funny to Spencer. It's not funny to any of us. And the idea, I don't know how else to put this. California is not a free state anymore. We're trying to remedy this with elections, which I guess is our only option right now. But if everything stays the same this November, if we just, and by the way, again, we're not voting for it. If it stays the same, it's because they cheated. If everything stays the same this November, what is our recourse? I really want Californians to start thinking about that. What is your recourse? I was on David Harris' show on News Nation last night, and he said, well, one of the options is to move. And David moved out of the state, and more power to him. I don't have any criticism for anyone who, took that option and bailed. Good for you. I think that's a rather flip thing to say, though, about just abandoning this huge state. It's the fourth largest economy in the world, 40 million residents, and it's infecting the rest of the country. I don't think that's a decent solution to just, people will just have to leave. But what happens to California? What if something terrible happens to California? And that means that's what happens to the United States, because as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. How can you say that? How can you say, well, just one thing you can do is just move? Yes, we're all aware that we have the ability, in theory, to pack up and move. But it's not that easy for most people in California to even save to move, to even save enough money to move somewhere. Maybe the David Harrises of the world, they get a job and it's got a decent pay rate and they can afford to move. But there are many people in middle and upper class even who can't afford to move. They are locked in. What do they do? What are our options if people are recognizing that it's just a giant money laundering scam? It's that there's cheating. The Democrats, socialists run Los Angeles. Homelessness is everywhere. You know what? Do I have So I have this homelessness is everywhere. Gas prices are going up. We have no recourse at the ballot box. If you can't go to the ballot box to win, what are we? And what is our recourse? And that is the question I think Californians need to start answering. And I am not condoning violent uprising, but I am saying that we do have some examples in this country of locales, not at the federal level, not Civil War level, but locales that have overthrown their corrupt government by force. So it's a thing that has happened in American history. And I just wonder at what point Californians will either get there or this state really is just a different country. It's just a different country. But there's a debate tonight, by the way, another California governor's debate. CNN is hosting it. I saw one of the candidates, Matt Mahan, who's the governor of San Jose, that's up north in the Bay Area, talk about his record with immigrants. He said 41% of his city is foreign born. He said he was proud of that, but that is not something to be proud of. You should be scared of that. No place in America should be 41% foreign born. That's a takeover. That's a takeover. And by the way, while we're reestablishing our boundaries and resetting norms, let's kick identity politics to the curb once and for all. You know, for a long time, I was like, okay, let's try to work with this. How do we, every community has different needs. And as a Black woman, who has lived in Black community, like in a majority Black community and a majority white community and other kinds, I totally get like the needs of the Black community, especially in inner city Black community, are way different than the needs I see here in my suburbs, which are mainly white. That's fair. But that's why we have districts, right? So people vote together and they vote ostensibly, they vote locally in a geographical area. When politics gets messed up is when people on the left start redrawing and gerrymandering and drawing these districts in crazy shapes, trying to get a majority Black vote when we're not the majority anywhere. Almost. And that creates racial tension and voting tension. And what gerrymandering has done has created the atmosphere of identity politics. So, you know what I hate? I hate here in California, we're the worst at it. Even Republicans do it. We feel like we have to do it. I'd like to challenge Republicans to say, no, we don't have to do this. We divide our votes up by different kinds of Americans. And we accept this. We do it too on the right. We read the polls, or we get Black American voters voting for Trump more. Or here's the white liberal, the white woman vote. Here is the Latino vote. Here is the Asian Pacific Islander vote. Here is the Puerto Rican vote. But it's a Puerto Rican American, Asian Pacific American, Somali American, which I hate. That should never be a thing. Arab American. There should only be American. We should never be. This is the problem. We're dividing politics up by vote, and now we're dividing candidates up by vote. And here in California, what we do is we pick people based on their race to run. And it's particularly a problem with the Asian community. I find it despicable, to be honest. I don't have any respect for it. I respect some of our Asian politicians who are, solid capitalists and conservatives. Not saying I don't respect the individual, but I hate this BS about how in order to get the Asian vote, we got to run an Asian candidate. And it is that way. I'm not saying that it's not that way, but we've let it get that way. There should be no Asian vote. There should be an American vote. And those people should be grouped in communities that are geographically important, not culturally important. And that's a function of a system that, that doesn't have anything to do with you on a local level. That's a function of the immigration system that doesn't enforce our immigration laws. You have to speak English to live here. You have to write English to live here. You have to take the citizenship test, and you can't vote unless you're a citizen. Like, all of those things go away, and then it waters down the electorate. And so we don't have an American electorate. We have foreign electorates voting in American elections. It's awful. It's pathetic. It's destroying this country. The birthright citizenship, Supreme Court needs to do the right thing on this. But if they don't, Congress needs to step in. Or what is America even? This is what I'm saying about California. At what point are we California? We're pushing up on the majority of people not being born here. We don't know where our money goes. The electoral system is hopelessly corrupt. Crime is rampant. We have people like Gavin Newsom out there, Nithya Raman out there. Pick your favorite Democrat. You'll hear it on the stage tonight in the Democrats in the governor debate. They'll have all the enthusiasm and cheer in the world for illegal immigrants. They're going to tell you all of the plans they have for illegal immigrants. They won't tell you one damn thing they're going to do for you, tax-paying Californian. Not one damn thing. They're going to talk about health care, but they mean for illegal immigrants, not for you. They're going to talk about keeping our election system safe, but they mean for illegal immigrants, not for you. They don't care that your vote is diluted by people that don't live here. They're trying to make those people legal. They got all the energy in the world for illegal immigrants. They don't have an ounce, a shred of care for you. And they keep getting elected. And again, I'll keep saying it. I don't think we are electing these people. In certain cases, in certain locales, yes, technically. But again, that changes too when you change the foreign-born population here. You got a lot of foreigners here voting for foreigners on their city councils. It's a lot worse than we think it is. It's not just that we got President Trump and things are going to get fixed. You have work to do. And it starts right where you are. You have to stand up and talk about this stuff right where you are. People, if you have noticed this foreign-born element coming into your communities and changing the culture of your community, go to the city council meeting. Dearborn, Michigan, go give those Muslims what for. They took over your city. They took over your city council and you let it happen. Go stand up and shout at them. Go stand up and fight for your country. Fight for your city. Fight for your town. At least get on the record. That's what I'm keep telling people. Don't be worrying about if one person sees, like I'd never get insulted when somebody like looks at the amount of plays I do or don't have on an episode or a clip or anything. Or they think like, oh, well, Kira, you don't have 1 million views on any given thing. So you're kind of a loser. I don't ever get upset. It's not about the views. It's about getting on the record, dummy. It's about getting on the record because you're a greedy pig who just wants to take other people's money and live how you want to live. So you don't understand that some of us do this because we care about our country and we care about our state and we care about our families. See, you're a greedy pig. So you think that you're supposed to be famous and earning money or not, or something is not worth doing. But see, someone like me, I just care about my country. And I know the value of getting on record because down the road, when what I'm talking about does break, when it does come true, and it always does because I'm almost always right. Down the road, when it does come true, someone can look back and say, yeah, Kira did say. She did say. She did tell us. Yep. And guess what that gains me? That's more valuable than money. Reputation and respect. Those are really the only currency you can move through in this world that mean anything. So you go get on the record where you are. Pick up your phone. I don't care if only one person sees it. Pick up your phone, record the story, record the reel. You have thoughts about something. Go to a meeting. I can't say this enough. Go to any meeting. Pick any meeting. I don't care what it is. It's your school board. It's the water district. It's the city council. Some community forums about these data centers going up near you. Pick any meeting. Planning commission. Go to the planning commission meeting. Pick any meeting. They happen at your city hall all week long, all times a day, and go. Just sit in one. I tell you what, A few years ago, I was up in the Capitol and in Sacramento and for an event, and the organizer said, "Hey, while you're here, the event ends early today. You should really just head over to the Capitol, find a session or a hearing that's going on, and sit in on it. They're really interesting. You'll learn a lot." And I was like, "Well, what one?" And he was like, "Just pick one. There's all kinds of random ones." So I walked by one. It was for the insurance commission. I didn't know anything about insurance. Insurance sounds boring to me. Man, I sat in that meeting. It changed how I view insurance in the state of California. And now y'all know about the insurance crisis. And that's when it was just becoming public knowledge. But there was 100 insurance agents there to talk to the commission to say, don't do this next thing you're doing because it's going to create an insurance nuclear bomb. And we're not going to be able to stay in the state. We're not going to be able to fund insurance in this state. It's going to be an absolute crisis. And guess what? The insurance commission did whatever they were going to do anyway. And now we're in a crisis. And of course, you're going to hear candidates tonight talk about that insurance crisis. And you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, well, we need to get more people on the FAIR plan. We need to fund the FAIR plan. The FAIR plan is the government insurance, which already is broke. It's bankrupt. Like, I don't know what they think having more money, more people on it will bring in more money, but it's just another communist scam. Again, California, yeah, vote for Stacey Korsgarden. We're going to have her on the show. She's on the golden ticket. She's running for insurance commissioner. Vote for her. But again, if we can't get these people elected and it's just another 4 years of the same, at what point do we say we're not even a state? And then does the federal government step in? Like, what are the triggers for the federal government to step in on a state and say, like, you are operating as an independent country at this point? I think that's where we're at here in California. If we don't do something different in this next election cycle, that's us declaring we're operating as a totally independent country within the United States of America. And I think that's a problem. I just want you to think about it. All right. I'm going to go. We got a debate tonight. I got to prepare for the debate. I don't know. I don't drink much these days anymore, but I might want to drink through this. I've never been treated to so many California gubernatorial debates. It's actually getting annoying. Like, there's nobody saying anything new. There's nothing new to hear. Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are the only two candidates who make any kind of sense. And they keep saying the same things over and over again, but that's not their fault. It's because the Democrats keep saying the same things over and over again, and all they have to do is respond to it. We're going to have 6, I think, Democrat idiots up there telling us how much more of our money, they're going to spend to cure things that they don't want cured in the first place. All they're going to do is accuse you, California, of not being generous enough with your money, not giving enough of your money, not coming up off enough of your money, and not caring enough about people with no money. That's all they're going to do. So it's on CNN tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific time. My prediction is they're going to try to shut Steve Hilton out. This is what's been going on the last 2 debates. I have noticed they're shutting Hilton out. And the way they do that is you don't mention your opponent. So when you mention an opponent, you give that opponent more time to speak. So I did notice on the because they get to respond then by the rules of debate. So in the last debate, I did notice a couple of Democrats, when they wanted to go after the Republicans, they didn't mention Steve, except Jose Baguria couldn't help but bring up Trump's your daddy. Because I think that's projection. I think he wishes Trump was his daddy. But they mentioned Bianco, which gives Bianco more time. They want all those polls that have Bianco at the top with Steve, those are Democrat polls. They're not real. That's like they like the idea of Bianco creating some chaos in this Republican field so that he'll strip votes from Steve, and it might work. It might work. Chad doesn't seem self-aware enough to think about the rest of California. And I mean, honestly, he needs to drop out to guarantee this a Republican in the top spot. That's neither here nor there, I guess. My point is this, that I think tonight I predict that Steve will get shut out as much as possible. Last time I noticed Frank Buckley from KTLA. Frank, man, you used to be so cool. Trump derangement syndrome just ruined you, man. Just ruined you. but he was so sour and bitter and tired, and I don't know what's going on in his personal life, but he just didn't look like he needed to be there. But I noticed he would give the candidates question, like say a question on gas prices, but he would answer Steve's question for him. So he would take Steve's avenue away from him, his typical answer. So let's say the question is, gas prices are high. What will you do to lower them? Javier Baccaria, Chad Bianco, Katie Porter. Same question to you, Mr. Hilton. Gas prices are so high, but I know you've already come out with a plan that says you're going to lower $3 gas by allowing for more drilling and taking off some of the environmental regulations. But what else could you do? You know, like the whole point is to neuter Steve's answers before he can give them. So you'll probably see some of that tonight, because they're not going to like that. I mean, it's just the division is clear between these candidates. I do predict that Javier Baccaria is going to bring up Trump. All the Democrats are going to bring up Trump. Trump's the other person running for governor in California, apparently. It's all they can talk about. And a lot of talk about illegal, undocumented migrants and what they can do for them and how much of your money they can give to them. I think that's what we'll see. But then we'll watch tonight, and tomorrow I will come back and break down the whole thing. So thanks for tuning in. You can follow me on Orange Report OC. Follow Orange Report OC everywhere. That's for Orange County and California news. Oh, wait, we got it. Let me read this before I go. Marilyn says, that cracks me up. She says she doesn't know who he is, but then says he's famous now again. Good point, Marilyn. Right. I didn't even know who he was, but now he's famous again. Oh, man. Thank you, Marilyn. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for piping up right before I left. I'm glad I caught that right before I left. Yeah, she is a piece of work. All these people are a piece of work. She's losing and she knows it. The only way they're going to win if there's cheating. And frankly, I think if there's cheating, there should be rioting. I do. I don't know. Again, I'm going to end with this. At what point are we a free state or just some kind of independent banana republic that really doesn't belong in the United States of America? And then what should the federal government's response be to that? California, we need to start thinking about this. We can't just keep pretending that it's okay to just be cheating and cheating and cheating and lying and lying and lying all the time. And then running a state completely against the wishes of the people. That's not a republic. So what do we do? All right. I'll be back tomorrow with debate breakdown. See you then.